Hey y'all, before we jump into this video, there's a couple of things that I need to talk about. The first, as you might be able to tell from the length of this video, is this is obviously a very long video. And with that said, the structure of this video hasn't changed. It's still going to be the reaction to the video and the post-analysis. But in that post-analysis, while I do comment on the music of the video, the majority of the length of this video is going to be me discussing a lot of the themes presented in this video. All of the perspectives that I present in this video is based on my own experience and my own understanding of the world and the human condition. And everything that I say is not based from a professional therapeutic standpoint. If you guys are really struggling in your life, I implore that you do seek that either professional help or you seek any kind of help that you think will ultimately benefit you in a way that's real and that actually provides real sustainable outcomes. That would be primarily through real therapeutic professional advice and consultation. Nothing that I say in this video is professional therapeutic advice. Again, it is just my own personal perspective on the world and the human experience. So with that said, many of the themes that I talk about and are presented in the piece can be very triggering to some people. So viewer discretion is advised in that regard. By continuing with this video, you understand that a lot of the themes that I'm going to discuss can be very intense and be very uncomfortable. And with that said, I sincerely hope that you enjoy my reaction and my post-analysis to the piece. I hope you stick around for a lot of it because I do have a lot to say, and hopefully it will provide an open place of discussion for all of us to talk about our own experiences with some of these themes. And yeah, but outside of that, I sincerely hope you enjoy this video and my reaction and analysis to Hi Ren by Ren. Hey, good evening. I'm really happy to have you here. My name is Daniel. I was a professional opera singer and beatboxer, and tonight we're going to be listening to Hi Ren by Ren. This one was heavily requested from the audience, and I'm personally really excited to jump into this. So without any further delay, let's jump into it. Interesting. Oh my gosh.
Hi there, Ren. It's been a little while. Did you miss me? You thought you buried me, didn't you? Risky. Cause I always come back. Deep down you know that. Deep down you know I'm always in periphery. Ren, are you pleased to see me? It's been weeks since we spoke, bro. I know you need me. You're the sheep, I'm the shepherd. Not your place to lead me. Not your place to be biting off the hand that feeds me.
Hi. I've been taking some time to be distant. I've been taking some time to be still. I've been taking some time to be by myself since my therapist told me I'm ill. And I've been making some progress lately, and I've learned some new coping skills. So I haven't really needed you much, man. I think we need to just step back and chill.
Ren, you sound more insane than I do. You think that those doctors are really there to guide you? Been through this a million times. Your civilian mind is so perfect at always being lied to. Okay, take another pill, boy. Drown yourself in the sound of white noise. Follow this 10-step program, rejoice. All your problems will be gone. Fucking dumb boy.
Nah, mate. This time is different, man. Trust me. I feel like things might be falling in place. And my music's been kinda doing bits too. Like I actually might do something great. And when I'm gone, maybe I'll be remembered for doing something special with myself. That's why I don't think that we should talk, man. Cause when you're with me, it never seems to help.
You think that you can amputate me? I am you, you are me, you are I am we are one. Split in two, that makes one, so you see. You gotta kill you if you wanna kill me. I'm not leftover dinner, I'm not scraps on the side. Oh, your music is thriving, delusional guy. Where's your top 10 hit? Where's your interview with Oprah? Where are your Grammys, Ren? Nowhere.
Yeah, but my music's not commercial like that. I never chase numbers, statistics or stats. I never write hooks for the radio, they never even play me, so why would I concern myself with that? But my music is really connecting, and the people who find it respect it. And for me that's enough, cause this life's been tough, so it gives me a purpose I can rest in.
Man, you sound so pretentious. Ren, your music is so self-centered. No one wants to hear another song about how much you hate yourself.
Trust me.
You should be so lucky, having me inside you to guide you, remind you to manage expectations, provide you perspective. That thing you neglected, I get it. You wanna be a big deal, next Jimi Hendrix, forget it.
Man, it's not like that.
Man, it's just like that, I'm inside you, you twat.
No, it's not, man, you're wrong. When I write, I belong.
Let me break the fourth wall by acknowledging this song. Ren sits down, has a stroke of genius. He wants to write a song that was not done previous. A battle with his subconscious, Eminem did it.
Played on guitar.
Plan B did it.
Man, you're not original, you criminal rip-off artist. The pinnacle of your success is stealing other people's material.
Ren, mate, we've heard it all before.
She sells seashells on the seashore. Fuck you, I don't need you, I don't need to hear this. Cause I'm fine by myself, I'm a genius. And I will be great, and I will make waves, and I'll shake up the whole world beneath us.
That's right, speak your truth, your fucking God complex leaks out of you. It's refreshing to ask for you, say it instead of downplay it.
Music is all about the creative process, and if people can find something to relate to within that, then that's just a bonus.
Fuck you, I'ma fucking kill you, Ren.
Well, fucking kill me then, let's fucking have you, Ren.
I'ma do it, watch me prove it. Who are you to doubt my music? Cause I call the shots, I choose if you die. Yeah, I call the shots and so I choose who survives. I'll tie you up in knots when I lock you inside.
Newsflash. I was created at the dawn of creation. I am temptation. I am the snake in Eden. I am the reason for treason, beheading all kings. I am sin, with no rhyme or reason. Son of the morning, Lucifer, Antichrist, father of lies. Mephistopheles, truth in a blender, deceitful pretender, the banished avenger, the righteous surrender. When standing in front of my solar eclipse, my name is stitched to your lips. So you see, I won't bow to the will of a mortal, feeble and normal. You wanna kill me? I'm eternal immortal. I live in every decision that catalyzes chaos, that causes division. I live inside death, the beginning of ends. I am you, you are me, I am you, friend.
Hi, Ren. I've been taking some time to be distant. I've been taking some time to be still. I've been taking some time to be by myself, and I've spent half my life ill. But just as sure as the tide starts turning, just as sure as the night has dawned, just as sure as the rainfall soon runs dry when you stand in an eye of a storm. I was made to be tested and twisted. I was made to be broken and beat. I was made by his hand, it's all part of his plan that I stand on my own 2 feet. And you know me, my will is eternal. And you know me, you've met me before. Face to face with a beast, I will rise from the east and I'll settle on the ocean floor. And I go by many names also. Some people know me as hope. Some people know me as the voice that you hear when you loosen the noose on the rope. And you know how I know that I'll prosper? Cause I stand here beside you today. I have stood in the flames that cremated my brain, and I didn't once flinch or shake. So cower at the man I've become when I sing from the top of my lungs. That I won't retire, I'll stand in your fire, inspire that me to be strong. And when I am gone I will rise in the music that I left behind. Ferocious, persistent, immortal like you, we're a climate different side. When I was 17 years old, I shouted out into an empty room, into a blank canvas that I would defeat the forces of evil. And for the next 10 years of my life, I suffered the consequences, with autoimmunity, illness, and psychosis. As I got older, I realized there were no real winners and there were no real losers in psychological warfare, but there were victims and there were students. It wasn't David versus Goliath. It was a pendulum, eternally swaying from the dark to the light. And the more intensely that the light shone, the darker the shadow it cast. It was never really a battle for me to win. It was an eternal dance. And like a dance, the more rigid I became, the harder it got. The more I cursed my clumsy footsteps, the more I struggled. So I got older, and I learned to relax, and I learned to soften, and that dance got easier. It is this eternal dance that separates human beings from angels, from demons, from gods. And I must not forget, we must not forget, that we are human beings.
Lot to unpack there. Let's just jump into the analysis so I can break it down section by section, give my own thoughts as to how the music was performed alongside my own thoughts as to each message and vocal line that was performed, because there's just so much to unpack here. So let's jump into it. Being carted in by a butcher pig is really strong symbolism for this kind of atmosphere that's built throughout the piece. That was an excellent choice. Very dark, but that's the point. Listen to how hard he's plucking here. Ugh! Yeah. This kind of melancholic atmosphere, and then all of a sudden we go from this kind of minor melancholic atmosphere into this brief major section where this definitely feels like a light shining through that darkness. Like, just get an idea of this atmosphere before you hear this major section come in. Dissonances only to show what's to come here. This entire interlude here is just all foreshadowing for what's to come musically and emotionally, which is really exceptional to put solely in this kind of musical introduction. So just talking about this from a musical standpoint, it's really great. It's really light. He has this beautiful vibrato, very natural. It flows very consistently. This entire section here is very marcato, very bouncy, creates this feeling of levity before we jump into this emotionally raw section. So just to have this semblance of levity is actually very critical here. And also, for those who have ever experienced or are currently experiencing the spiral of depression, then you can sympathize with the idea or even empathize with the idea that when you're spiraling, your intrinsic impulse is to latch on to any semblance of light and clutch onto it as tight as possible to kind of provide a foothold to stop spiraling. But ultimately, clutching onto that light for dear life. But ultimately, the longer you clutch onto that small light for dear life, you realize that that's not the solution to your problem. The light fades and you continue your spiral. And we're going to talk about depression and navigating through it as we progress through the song.
Hi there, Ran. It's been a little while. Did you miss me? You thought you buried me, didn't you? Risky. Cause
I love the flittering light there in the beginning, just showing that instability.
come back. Deep down you know that. Deep down you know I'm always in periphery. Ran on your pleased to see me. It's been weeks since we spoke, bro. I know you need me. You're the sheep, I'm the shepherd. Not your place to lead me. Not your place to be biting off the hand that feeds me.
Hi.
Yeah, so this is something that personally I've struggled with tremendously, and I'm sure a myriad of other people have struggled in a very similar way, where when I was ultimately trying to find the identity of this channel, one of the video concepts that I came up with was a conversation with myself, where I separate my mind from my heart. I have a conversation where I created a persona of me that was fully pragmatic and a persona of me that was fully emotional, and tried to find those commonalities in that Venn diagram where I could actually work out solutions and create open discussions for people in the comments to say, what are your thoughts? Do you guys agree that this middle section of the diagram are real workable solutions for navigating certain issues or problems, and doing deep reflection and analysis of them? So ultimately in that context, it's about recognizing what genuinely fulfills you as a human being and what prevents you from achieving that level of fulfillment. And oftentimes observing a lot of society, specifically Western society today, I find a lot of blaming outside forces that are outside of your control, rather, and ultimate lack of personal accountability of you are in control of your actions, maybe not all of your emotions. Those are just feelings that you get as an intrinsic response to situations, but you are solely responsible for your actions, and recognizing what it is that is possible through your own action, which is actually a lot more tremendous than people make it out to be. So the idea of having this darker side, this darker quality, this side of you which feels very evil but is actually not. And I can hear many people in the comments screaming, you don't understand, I'm constantly battling this evil side of me that's always telling me to hurt myself or to hurt others or things like that. And I completely not only sympathize but empathize with those feelings. I speak from experience in that regard. So ultimately, recognizing that human beings are truly capable of great good and great evil. Any one of us at any time. Again, speaking from personal experience, I have hurt many people in my life. But I have also helped many people in my life. And it comes to a point of understanding that at any point, even the people closest to you, even yourself, are capable of committing atrocities just as much as you're capable of committing saintly acts. And even though it does feel like an oscillation between good and evil, ultimately we are all just human beings doing our best to understand the world around us. And I feel most people, at least the majority, genuinely want to go out into the world and help others. And however it is that they internalize that, whether it's actually workable and pragmatic or just emotion-based, the sentiment and the intentions of genuinely wanting to help others is there. And even though intentions aren't necessarily workable or realistic in terms of actually building a strong foundation off of, it's a good starting point. It's a good place to recognize this is where my heart wants to be. And that's at least a lighthouse out in your chaotic sea of emotion. And having that lighthouse can serve as your guiding post towards where it is you ultimately want to be. Something that I've told my friends in the past is, if I am in a very negative emotional place, I never want you guys to stoop to my level. I never want you to come down to me and sympathize with me, cry with me. I want you to still be your usual, happy, semi-chaotic selves, laughing when I'm grieving or when I'm severely hurting. Because seeing you guys laugh, seeing you guys enjoy life, serves as my guiding star towards where I ultimately want to be. I don't want to stew in this darkness forever. Dragging people down with me, I think, is very malicious and actually intentionally evil. Just because you're suffering doesn't mean that other people need to suffer, but also their positivity, them being their usual selves, can actually serve to your benefit if you allow them to. So in this particular section of the song here, where he's splitting up his evil side versus his more warm, pragmatic side of saying, you know, my therapist told me I'm ill. I'm doing my best to separate and to actually create something foundationally sturdy for myself. That's huge. That's huge. And being able to experience yourself from a third-party perspective. This actually falls in line with a Buddhist philosophy where you encounter a situation, that situation makes you feel very specific emotions, and you're able to have the self-awareness to understand the incredible nuances of the emotions you're feeling, and not just saying, this is the emotion I'm feeling, but rather saying, this emotion is one element of a myriad of emotions, and recognizing the positive and negative aspects of that, and being able to observe what it is you're feeling from a third party's perspective. Being able to feel the emotions in their entirety, understand the utility of what those emotions are capable of bringing you, such as if you feel tremendous anger about a situation, you are able to utilize that anger in a way that can be productive instead of vengeful, in the idea that anger provides you an untapped source of limitless energy, that I'll show you kind of energy, and you go out into the world and use that energy in a way that benefits others, in a way that benefits yourself. And again, not in any malicious way, but in a way that actually provides genuine goodness towards yourself and society. And that is just one element of all of the emotions you can feel in any given situation. So being able to observe yourself, feel the emotion in their entirety, but not be consumed by them and let them pass as you continue to navigate life is critical. As someone who has lived with depression and anxiety for over 20 years, I can speak from experience, and my experience is not going to be the same as everybody's experience, but I have definitely spiraled for 20 years down farther and farther and farther continuously, and through all of that experience, I was able to come out of it to say, the depression doesn't really vanish from your life. The anxiety doesn't really vanish from your life. You're still capable of experiencing that level of turmoil, that level of self-resentment, that level of fear of the future, but it becomes so much more manageable and easier to process. It's very similar to grief, where if someone you loved with all of your heart dies or moves on from your life, especially in a way that was very harsh, that level of grief can be overwhelming. It's painting a simple image. It's like you are a ball inside of a box, and there is a massive button in that box, and that button represents grief. And the ball is you, your life. And the ball is always going to be moving because life is always moving. And every time it hits the wall, it's going to hit the grief button, and it's going to hurt, and it's going to hurt a lot. But as time moves on, as you begin to process it, as you begin to understand it, actually give it the space it needs to reflect, to understand it more, that button progressively gets smaller. It doesn't mean to say that life is never going to hit the button again, but it's going to become less occurring. And it's going to give you even more space to process, give you even more time to reflect and to give actual thought as to, okay, this is actually what I'm feeling. This is how I'm processing it. This is what I'm doing about it. These are the activities that I'm going to sink my time into, not just in order to progress myself, but in order to actually cultivate real beneficial elements to society, or just to my friend group, or just to myself in some key ways. And it gives you a level of self-fulfillment and satisfaction because of it. And none of that would be possible if you didn't give yourself the space necessary to analyze that you are one person, which is true. But if you think about it from a platonic mindset, where you have your emotional self and your pragmatic self, and your pragmatic self needs to completely dominate your emotional self, your life is going to be completely miserable. If you think about it from Jonathan Haidt's perspective, in what I'm taking from his book, From the Righteous Mind, his argument is that it's more like a rider and their elephant. The elephant being a substitute for the horse, because an elephant is much more domineering and big and powerful. And the elephant represents your emotional self, and your pragmatism represents the rider. So the idea of it is that the rider does his best or her best to direct the elephant in a particular direction, does his best to clear obstacles so the elephant can traverse down, but ultimately the elephant is the one moving. The elephant is the one generating the momentum in order to take action towards things. And oftentimes the elephant is going to have its own idea as to where it wants to go, and the rider can only do so much to stop an elephant, which is why accommodations and compromises need to be made in terms of what your real emotional needs are. But that being said, you need to understand, you need to have a real working relationship with the elephant in order to create solutions, workable solutions towards problems, towards obstacles that are in the elephant's path. So the approach that Ren is taking here is something that I took with me when I was navigating depression, which was when I felt like the world was crumbling around me, everything was going wrong, no matter what I tried, I was always being punished, and it just felt inescapable. The idea, when it finally felt like there was a split, a fracture, where I was able to separate my emotional self, which just felt evil but wasn't actually evil. It was just me pleading with myself to create a workable solution to get out of the environment that I was in. And that's where I was able to actually generate common ground to move forward. And that was critical in understanding. All of this to say that Ren's approach here in separating this chaotic energy, this devil inside of him, if you will, versus this angel, this pragmatic self, ultimately both of them want the same thing for Ren, which is to live a life that is personally fulfilling, that is personally happy, and leads him towards good things, towards success, towards inspiring others. And you can't really engage down that path if you think that there are elements within yourself that are intentionally stopping you. Blaming the world around you for being stuck in a position will ultimately just lead to more misery and keep that spiral into depression self-propelling. So it comes to a point of, what is it that I'm actually able to control? My own actions. Okay. Using that as a platform to springboard off of in order to take the next steps. It's terrifying because you have to look at your own darkness right in the eyes as you continue to do so. And that's a horrifying experience. But if you truly have the inner strength necessary to look at your own darkness right in the eyes and to continue to move through it, you'll recognize that your own darkness poses no real threat to you. Just in the sense that if you guys have ever been in a haunted house or have gone to Hollywood Horror Nights or a theme park that has a Halloween event or something like that, all of these scare actors are exactly what that sounds like. They're scare actors. They're meant to come out and terrify you. They're meant to pose as potential threats to your being, but they're never allowed to touch you. They're never allowed to actually do you harm. And this might be triggering to some audiences, but for me personally, as someone who has actually harmed himself and has absolutely contemplated and attempted death as an option, it comes to a point where your greatest threat to yourself is yourself. It's not necessarily the world around you. And quoting from Iroh from Avatar: The Last Airbender, when he's talking to Zuko, he says, "You must never give in to despair. Giving in to despair gives you an excuse to submit to your lowest instincts." Ensuring that you are constantly moving forward in times of great turmoil and constantly taking action, no matter how small, just making those baby steps. That is the meaning of inner strength. And giving yourself a sign of hope for the future, hope for the present moment, to say that you are still here, that on some level you recognize that there is beauty and potential in your life, that there is beauty and potential in the world around you, that you are capable of producing some true good outside of your own dark faculties, outside of what your own darkness is potentially capable of. And don't get me wrong, like I was mentioning earlier, human beings are absolutely capable of great good and great evil. All human beings are. You, your friends, your family, everyone around you, everyone in the world is capable of such a thing. But it doesn't mean that they're necessarily going to act on those types of things. It all depends on their personal narrative of the world around them and of themselves, which is why I think it's so important to constantly keep exposing yourself to the world, to travel, to understand other people's perspectives, to keep growing your narrative and to keep evolving it and never being really a static character, having a particular view of the world or of yourself especially, to say that I'm worthless, I'm meaningless, I'm never going to be capable of such a thing, or of committing to what it is that I truly want for myself. That is completely irrational and is a complete lie that myself, alongside many other people that I know who have suffered with depression, expose themselves to. And it's just completely false. And pragmatically, you understand that, at least on an intuitive level. And it's just taking those baby steps. It's actually recognizing that if you engage with a hobby and you suck at it really, really hard, that's amazing. Because you know that the moment that you actually achieve even the smallest thing, that you know that that is one step towards improvement. I remember the first time when I started cooking, I was just cooking eggs and I burned them. Like they were black. But when I actually made eggs right for the first time, just over easy, that was a small achievement. And then I started learning actually how to cook, how to prepare fish, how to cook vegetables, how to cook rice. And I started taking these little elements and started actually being able to nourish myself through this developed skill, even though I was sucking really, really hard multiple times. So all of this is a very long-winded way of saying I really like Ren's approach here. Having these two different entities reflect darkness and light, himself and himself, having a conversation. That's something I actually learned in my own therapy process. And for me personally, I haven't had therapists that I deeply connected with or really worked well with, but they gave me certain exercises that I use today, which have been beneficial. So ultimately, even though therapy itself wasn't great for me, I had many clashes and never deeply connected with any of my therapists. I always wanted a Robin Williams, Good Will Hunting type of therapist, and I never got it. I always had therapists that were just imposing and foisting their own views onto me instead of actually listening. And to know that at the very least, capable of taking these exercises, capable of meditating, sitting down with myself, understanding what it is that I need emotionally, what it is that I need pragmatically, what it is that I want on both pragmatic and emotional levels, and being able to deconstruct myself and understand every element of who I am as a person piece by piece and addressing each of those things individually. It was arduous and took a long freaking time, but it ultimately served to a tremendous sense of self-awareness, that of which was an enormous weakness in my character for the longest period of my life. And now it's progressively turning into much more of a strength than it was a weakness. And it's just so critical being able to analyze yourself in this way. And I think Ren is doing an exceptional job of that in this piece.
Ren, I've been taking some time to be distant. I've been taking some time to be still. I've been taking some time to be by myself since my therapist told me I'm ill. And I've been making some progress lately, and I've learned some new coping skills. So I haven't really needed you much, man. I think we need to just step back and chill.
Ren, you sound more insane than I do. You think that...
Yeah, and his character voices are very reflective of himself here, and I really dig that.
Those doctors are really there to guide you. Been through this a million times. Your civilian mind is so perfect to always being lied to. Okay, take another pill, boy. Drown yourself in the sound of white noise.
Brief story. There was a time when my depression got so bad that I checked myself into the hospital. My arms were scarred, and I just said, I desperately need help. I have nowhere else to turn to. At that time in my life, I cut all connections from any friends, from any family. I genuinely had no one, or at least that's how I felt. And after pretty much an entire day in the hospital, they didn't care. They were busy dealing with patients who were on their deathbed, failing to see that someone was very close to his. And ultimately, all they said was, here's some antidepressants. And I tried them, and they made me even more angry, even more agitated. And I got off of them after about a few months of that trial and error. And then I started sinking into alcoholism. I started sinking into drugs. And even though they helped in the moment, like I was mentioning, clutching onto that light of sustainability, at least for the present moment, it doesn't last. It's not a solution, which is why actually addressing your problems and looking at your darkness square in the eyes, recognizing that it poses no threat to who you are as a person, recognizing that you as a person are so much stronger and so much more capable than one element which creates this image that it's all powerful, omnipotent, and controls the entirety of your life. But that's exactly what it is. It's a persona. It's a character. That's what everybody in society puts on. The word persona literally means mask. When we go out into the world, it's not often that I see people genuinely living up to this high level of integrity, honor, real personal fulfillment. And I don't fault people for this as well, where we're all just trying to fit in. We're all trying to get a certain level of satisfaction from being one with the crowd, like knowing that we're well liked. We're social creatures. That's hardwired into us, whether or not you're introverted or extroverted. For me, I'm very introverted, but I still appreciate having acceptance from others. But I've been able to reduce that down to, I don't need acceptance from random people. But when I go out and I engage with someone, and over the period of many years, that person proves to me that their character and their sense of integrity and honor is well respectable, and that I can depend on them and trust them if I need them, and that they know that they can come to me and can depend on me when they need me. Those are the people whose opinions matter to me. Those are the people whose livelihoods are important to me. And not to say that I don't care about other people, because I absolutely do. I love all of humanity. I think human beings are fully capable of limitless potential, which is why I go out and I do my best to engage with as many people as possible. But it all just goes to say that actually picking apart these certain elements, these certain qualities, and addressing them as individual issues to actually work through one at a time. And like I mentioned, it's an arduous and long process, and it's going to be very difficult because you have to confront your literal weaknesses and confront them head on. And that could be very challenging, not just because they're actual weaknesses of yours, but maybe you've publicly displayed to all the people you care about that this is your view about something. And if you actually do some self-reflection and say, wow, I was really wrong about this, that's not only weakening because you're engaging with your own darkness and it's very difficult just to square up against it, but it's also humiliating. Having to go to someone and say, I was absolutely wrong about this thing I was vehemently passionate about. And that just doubles the amount of pain that I feel most people are too terrified to really engage with. And I don't fault them for that. But ultimately, if you want to be better, you need to recognize that. That's why there's a specific quote from Elbert Hubbard that I quote often, in which he wrote an article and a woman wrote to him vehemently disagreeing with the article. And he wrote back to her saying, you know, I don't entirely agree with it myself. I'm interested to learn what you think on the subject. Indicating that not everything he wrote yesterday appealed to him today, and he has a genuine interest to say, you know, I could have been very wrong about this, and having a real open mind and open heart to approach himself and have the humility to say, I was absolutely wrong about this. I want to hear your thoughts on this. Or maybe saying, you know, I could be still right about this, but I really want to hear your perspective on it because I am absolutely open to change. Should I be proven wrong? Should my argument be actually disassembled pragmatically and speak to me on a deep intuitive and emotional level as well as a pragmatic level, and being able to deconstruct it in a way that makes sense to me. And that can either be highly analytical with a tinge of emotional spice or some way that connects. And if you're able to do so, then it becomes so much more palatable to actually engage with your weaknesses and admit fault.
Follow this 10-step program, rejoice, all your problems will be gone. Fucking dumb boy.
Nah, mate, this time is different, man, trust me. I feel like
You can feel the sadness and terror in his voice when he's like, nah, mate. He's squaring up with his darkness, and that's terrifying, but he's doing it. And that is extremely admirable. Extremely. Very few people are capable of such a thing. But what he's doing right here, what this entire video reflects, is inner strength. It's your deepest, darkest thoughts personified, and you are your own white knight in shining armor, squaring up against that darkness and conquering it. Incredible.
like things might be falling in place, and my music's been kinda doing bits too. Like I actually might do something great.
Doing bits too, like I might actually be doing something great. Those baby steps I was mentioning. Critical.
And when I'm gone, maybe I'll be remembered for doing something special with myself. That's why I don't think that we should talk, man. Cause when you're with me, it never seems to help.
I feel most people actually do reflect on this a lot. What's my legacy? How am I going to be remembered after I die? Some people just want to experience life in a very hedonistic way, just in terms of what's the present pleasure that I can gad after. And there are some people that genuinely reflect on how is it that I'm going to be remembered? You know, I would much rather die young and be remembered for all time than live old and have nobody remember who I was. That's one of the main themes in the movie Whiplash. But regardless of however it is that you view legacy, the critical point in this element is that he was looking towards the future. He was observing his baby steps in increments, seeing the progress being made, and that is critical. That's not just a light that you can clutch onto and have that light fade away. That's a real sustainable foothold that you can step into and not lose any balance, not have that fade away. It's real. It's real progress, and that is huge when overcoming the omnipotence that is your own inner darkness.
You think that you can amputate me? I am you, you are me, you are I am we are one, split in two, that makes one, so you see. You gotta kill you if you wanna kill me. I'm not leftover dinner, I'm not scraps on the side. Oh, your music is thriving, delusional guy. Where's your top 10 hit? Where's your interview with Oprah? Wow, your Grammys ran nowhere.
Yeah.
And all of that is obviously incredibly illogical. How do you measure success? Do you measure success by having your name in lights, having billions of dollars, touring the world, like the top 0.00001% of musicians that are capable of such an extraordinary lifestyle? Or do you measure success on a much more personal level? In my point of view, I believe success isn't about the amount of people watching you. It's not about the amount of money you receive or the fame, the accolades. It's about none of that. It's about personal fulfillment, how you actually navigate life. There was something that I observed recently, which was Maslow's hierarchy of needs. And I'll put an image of it right here. But ultimately, it's a really exceptional graph that talks about your physical needs, your basic needs, and just works up the scale all the way to actual fulfillment. And it's self-realization. It's a full understanding and value in the self, in knowing that you recognize your potential. You recognize what it is that you're truly capable of providing yourself and others. Or at least that's how I've interpreted it. And it's really quite beautiful. So when you measure solely your success off of where are your Grammys, where are your billions of dollars, recognize that I, as this evil entity, am you. So if you want to hurt me, you're going to have to hurt yourself, which is completely illogical. It makes no sense. Yes, that element is a part of you, but that element isn't, as I was mentioning, this all-consuming darkness. What it is all of your doubts, all of your inner demons personified. But that's just one element, the loudest element of your personality as you are suffering. But if you actually, again, just take that step back and analyze all of the complexities and nuances of what it is. I was rewatching Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood the other day, and there was a point where one of the characters, Winry, approaches the main protagonists and starts crying to them, saying, is it selfish of me to have wanted my parents to come back alive to me after going out into a war and being doctors in a war and having them be murdered by the very patients that they've saved? And is that selfish of me to have wanted them to return home alive? And even though you could interpret selfishness as an element to that of this is what I wanted for myself, you can also recognize the absolute nuance of that, where it's extreme kindness, compassion, altruism, sincerity, integrity, loyalty, a familial bond, respect. There are so many more elements than just selfishness, but selfishness, that doubt in this case, in Hyren here, is so much more loud. And you'll find this not just in artists, but in all human beings, I've observed, where we are harshest on ourselves. We are our own harshest critic, self-critic. And it's so easy to rip into ourselves, but would we rip into ourselves the same way we would rip into a friend? The same way we would rip into our loved ones? If the answer is yes, then I implore you do much more self-reflection. But if the answer is no, because you think that you deserve it, you're wrong. Your family doesn't want to see you suffer. Your friends don't want to see you suffer, as much as you don't want to suffer yourself. But for some reason, you think you deserve it. It's just so illogical. And your friends and family, if they're really good friends and family and genuinely care about you and your well-being, they're not going to wish that kind of torment on yourself. You're solely doing that to yourself, as painful as that is to hear. And it's just taking that step at a time. It's recognizing it for what it is, not just the loudest elements of your harshest critic, but recognizing the nuance in your harshest critic. Your harshest critic is saying these things so you can ultimately recognize these faults and improve upon them, not to completely submit to them and allow them to completely take over your life.
Yeah, but my music's not commercial like that. I never chase numbers, statistics or stats. I never write hooks for the radio, they never even play me, so why would I concern myself with that? But my music is really connecting, and the people who find it respect it. And for me that's enough, cause this life's been tough, so it gives me a purpose I can rest in.
That is exactly how I feel about my music. When I was in the opera scene, all I cared about was making music that personally fulfilled me, that I really enjoyed making. It was all about storytelling that had timeless lessons and really captivating ideas that's just expressed through a very profound style of music. And I loved that. I loved that aspect about opera. That's why I engaged with it in the first place. But throughout my experience in it, throughout the different types of people I've worked with and the overall environment, it's not what I wanted. I realized it wasn't what I wanted because many people in the scene do not see it like that. They don't see it as purely like that. So when I started this YouTube channel, I said, I am only going to react in a way that I would personally react to music. I really like feeling these very big feelings when I engage with music because music means so much to me that I'm not going to do anything inauthentic. I'm going to experience music in the way that I really enjoy experiencing music. I'm going to go out into the world and through these videos and find an audience of people that genuinely love feeling music in this way, that genuinely want this wholesome relationship with music that we can all experience and share together. His approach and his understanding of that concept is what really allows me to connect with him, not just as an artist, but as a human being, as someone who's struggled with this very concept in and of itself. Getting a professional music career isn't measured by the success in how widely played your music is or how successful you are. It's about that connection. It's about connecting with other people who have a genuine love and appreciation for the music you're making. And that is an element of the pith as to what makes music beautiful, in my view.
And you sound so pretentious. Ran, your music is so self-centered. No one wants to hear another song about how much you hate yourself. Trust me. You should be so lucky having me inside you to guide you, remind you to manage expectations, provide you perspective. That thing you neglected, I get it. You wanna be a big deal. Next Jimi Hendrix, forget it.
Man, it's not like that.
Man, it's just like that. I'm inside you, you twat.
No, it's not, man, you're wrong. When I write, I belong.
Let me break the fourth wall by acknowledging this song. Ren sits down, has a stroke of genius. He wants to write a song that was not done previous. A battle with his subconscious. Eminem did it.
Played on guitar.
Plan B did it.
Man, you're not original, you criminal rip-off artist. The pinnacle of your success is stealing other people's material.
This is exactly what people who are incredibly narcissistic do. This is exactly what people who ultimately want to watch others be brought down do. And this is what I feel the center of cancel culture is, which is you take an object of truth that can be exploited for tremendous weakness, and you do everything you can to aggrandize that seed of truth in a way that becomes so overwhelming that the person can't either own up to it or they recognize that small truth that's been aggrandized as that entire thing is the truth when it's really just the small seed that's the truth, and you submit to that all-powerful negative being, and it's just not true. Like, the pith of it might be true, but you've already recognized this. You already owned up to it, and you recognize the value in that truth, not just its negative qualities. It's very, very, very rare in this world to ever find something that is purely good or purely evil. If you actually look at something, even the things that you detest and hate the most or love and appreciate the most, you'll find that there's at least a little tinge of nuance, of complexity that isn't just the one thing that you associate with it. And it's just so critical to recognizing these things in everything and all people and all events, all situations, no matter how vagarious it may feel or seem.
Ran, mate, we've heard it all before.
She sells seashells on the seashore.
Fuck you, I don't need you, I don't need to hear this. Cause I'm fine by myself, I'm a genius.
You can hear the pain in his voice, but he's still constantly battling against this darkness, and it's exhausting. You're toiling away for what seems like forever, because for many people it is. And if you just have the courage to keep stepping up to the plate and batting down that darkness, batting down that extremely loud voice, and actually recognizing where the truth is and how you interpret the truth and how your actions are inspired and motivated by that truth, I think that's a step in the right direction.
And I will be great, and I will make waves, and I'll shake up the whole world beneath us.
That's right, speak your truth, your fucking God complex leaks out of you. It's refreshing to actually hear you say it instead of downplay it.
Music is all about the creative process, and if people can find something to relate to within that, then that's just a bonus.
Fuck you, I'ma fucking kill you, Ren.
Well, fucking kill me then, let's fucking have you, Ren.
I'ma do it, watch me prove it. Who are you to doubt my music? Cause I call the shots, I choose if you die. Yeah, I call the shots and so I choose who survives. I'll tie you up in knots when I lock you inside.
Yeah, that there. It's the incredible impulsive desire to completely annihilate your darkness, to lock it away forever, throw away the key, and never allow it to unleash within you again. And that's not the answer. Because like he was mentioning, his dark side was mentioning, taking that tinge of truth and aggrandizing it. He is a part of him. And that is absolutely true. But it's not he as this penultimate dark enemy is inside of him. It's these negative emotions are inside of him. And being able to manage negative emotions sounds a lot more manageable than managing this extreme dark behemoth of a demon that's just all-consuming, destroying your brain. And as he expresses, he has psychosis, so it feels much more active in its imagery and in its presence than other people who don't have psychosis might engage with depression with. But regardless of however it is, that feeling, that definitely, at least to me, felt like that wasn't correct. Locking this up or destroying it isn't the answer. It just is what feels like the correct answer. Because I just want to conquer this. But that's exactly it. You conquer it. You conquer yourself. You are able to combine your emotional self, your harshest critic, but allow space to grow. You allow your self-critic to not be so demonizing. You structure yourself and your life in a way that isn't as harsh. You know, it's important to have a self-critic. There are positive elements to it. It allows you to remain humble in many situations. It allows you to make sure that your ego doesn't go out of control. It ensures that you're constantly looking for growth, for betterment, that there are areas in your life of which you are weak and that you can use these opportunities to expand your thought process and grow. But it's obviously very easy for it to become aggrandized and to become omnipotent and all-consuming in the most horrific ways imaginable, which is exactly what's happening with Ren here, which is just devastating to see because I see it happening with more and more people, especially as social media continues to rise. And that's just one of many reasons why YouTube is my only form of social media. I have nothing else. So it's just a constant push of what is it that I can do to temper and mediate my self-critic while knowing that I am still capable of engaging with it in a way that serves to my benefit instead of my detriment.
Newsflash! I was created at the dawn of creation. I am temptation. I am the snake in Eden. I am the reason for treason. Beheading all kings, I am sin, with no rhyme or reason. Son of the morning, Lucifer, Antichrist, father of lies. Mephistopheles, truth in a blender, deceitful pretender, the banished.
Yeah, again, the self-critic, that tiny seed of truth, aggrandized to this omnipotent being, actually calling himself Satan. It's obviously illogical to anybody on the outside listening in, but on a personal level, this absolutely feels like the truth. And just the fact that he's even capable of facing this darkness itself is breathtaking. It's so emotionally impactful, and I'm really proud of him.
Avenger the righteous surrender when standing in front of my solar eclipse. My name is stitched to your lips.
The music here is perfect.
So you see, I won't bow to the will of a mortal. Feeble and normal, you wanna kill me? I'm eternal immortal. I live in every decision that catalyzes chaos, that causes division. I live inside death, the beginning of ends. I am you, you are me, I am you, Ren.
Beautifully dissonant throughout this entire section. Deconstructing that a little bit. Yes.
Hi, Ren. I've been taking some time to be distant. I've been taking some time to be still. I've been taking some time to be by myself, and I've spent half my life ill. But just as sure as the tide starts turning, just as sure as the night has dawned, just as sure as the rainfall soon runs dry when you stand in an eye of a storm. I was made to be tested and twisted. I was made to be broken and beat. I was made by his hand, it's all part of his plan that I stand on my own 2 feet. And you know me, my will is a
beautiful. Actually physicalizing, I can stand on my own 2 feet. That's not just incredible imagery to the audience, but to himself. That's so powerful because what that stand represents, what that stand reflects, is action in a productive way. It's saying, look at me, look at the action that I'm capable of against you. Look at how I'm not on my knees, quivering in fear in a fetal position. Look at me, standing in your face. Yes.
eternal. And you know me, you've met me before. Face to face with a beast, I will rise from the east and I'll settle on the ocean floor. And I go by many names also. Some people know me as hope. Some people know me as the voice that you hear when you loosen the noose on the rope. And you know how I know that I'll prosper? 'Cause I stand here beside you today. I have stood in the flames that cremated my brain, and I didn't once flinch or shake.
Yeah, he's talking about these purifying flames that have allowed him to exist as where he is today. And I'm going to give you guys a little insider knowledge into this channel really quick, where the original name that I was going to name this channel was Gray Space Entertainment, in the idea that every concept of anything falls on a spectrum of something. Whether or not you're vehemently opposed or for or indifferent or wherever it is, you fall somewhere on a spectrum. And it's easy to oscillate between extreme greats, extreme highs versus extreme depressions or extreme lows. And I find that kind of way of living unbearable because it's just so exhausting that you don't really have time to experience the world in a way that's refreshing. Getting extreme highs feels great, but that's exactly what it is. It's a high. You have to come down. And when you do, it's going to hurt and crash hard. Existing in this gray space isn't as bad as people make it out to be, at least for me personally, where you can experience really amazing, beautiful moments without the crash. You're not experiencing the intense high of really great experiences, but you can appreciate those great experiences in their entirety, in their full beauty, as to how they reflect upon you, upon your soul, and just taking that in, experiencing what it's like to be conscious, to have human experiences, human connections, understand what humans are truly capable of, understand what you are truly capable of. And it's just so profound and so immensely nuanced that I don't think anybody in the world really has the full working solution as to what makes a person truly happy and fulfilled, because I think that answer lies in each unique individual, which is why I think the idea of a utopia is quite literally impossible. But just to be able to appreciate life and all of its beauty and all of its negativity, but still find the beauty in that negativity, still find the room to grow. I'm a firm believer that when a person experiences pain, that there's always opportunity within that pain to grow, to learn, to understand yourself or others, to understand a little bit more as to how did the situation happen? Is the way that I reacted to it in alignment with who I am as a person? Did I act solely based out of emotion, or did I actually think this through? You know, there's a lot of questions you can ask yourself when you are experiencing pain or suffering to some degree. And as long as it doesn't destroy you, there's always an opportunity to grow and to become better, wiser, stronger, more capable for the future.
So coward the man I've become when I sing from the top of my lungs.
Notice how we're in this new section of his voice. We haven't heard this throughout the entire piece so far, and this only happened after he took the action of standing on his feet. Beautiful, beautiful stuff.
Hey, I have stood in the flames that cremated my brain, and I didn't once flinch or shake. So coward the man I've become when I sing from the top of my lungs. That I won't retire, I'll stand in your fire, inspire that me to be strong. And when I am gone, I will rise.
Flow is incredible.
In the music that I left behind, ferocious, persistent, immortal like you, we're a climate different side.
I love this, where these who's feel like the struggle for power between darkness and light, where the lights are flickering and showing a lot of chaos, but his voice is very high and his vibrato is beautiful and consistent. And all of this is reflecting that even though there's great struggle and strife happening within him, that he's focusing on letting these positive qualities of his personality, of his character, be the one in control, be the one dominating this musical section. Not his gritty, negative, self-critical voice, but his actual beautiful singing at the top of my lungs voice. Again, even though there's that struggle, there's that clash, you get this feeling in this section that he, good Ren, pragmatic Ren, emotionally intelligent Ren, is the one in control here. And it doesn't feel like that wavers at all in this section. Beautifully impactful.
When I was 17 years old, I shouted out into an empty room, into a blank canvas, that I would defeat the forces of evil. And for the next 10 years of my life, I suffered the consequences, with autoimmunity, illness, and psychosis. As I got older, I realized there were no real winners and there were no real losers in psychological warfare. But there were victims, and there were students. It wasn't David versus Goliath. It was a pendulum, eternally swaying from the dark to the light. And the more intensely that the light shone, the darker the shadow it cast. It was never really a battle for me to win. It was an eternal dance. And like a dance, the more rigid I became, the harder it got. The more I cursed my clumsy footsteps, the more I struggled. So I got older, and I learned to relax, and I learned to soften, and that dance got easier. It is this eternal dance that separates human beings from angels, from demons, from gods. And I must not forget, we must not forget, that we are human beings.
He's absolutely right. When he was mentioning the eternal sway from darkness to light, that's definitely how it feels in the beginning, but like he was mentioning, it's not perennial. If you actually take the time to step outside of yourself, actually observe other people living their life in a way that isn't so masochistic on themselves, but in a way that allows others to experience the beauty of life while understanding that that person who is experiencing beauty has their own self-critic, has experienced tremendous darkness in their life, and you can understand and reflect that. Like, we hear the adage that you never know what someone is going through, so treat them with kindness, but that doesn't really, at least to me, doesn't strike a strong chord. Like, it doesn't connect with me emotionally. It's only until I sit down with someone and I get to know their life and understand who they are as a person and how they resulted in the person that I see them as today, that I'm actually able to deeply connect with them. And when people are very critical of others, when people choose to go out and be condemning or spiteful of someone based off of maybe their actions weren't necessarily politically correct, or maybe they did something intentionally hoping for one outcome but it resulted in devastation and people are trying to destroy them for it. Like, this person shouldn't be allowed to have so much power when they're a human being. They've made a mistake, even though they've put in arduous hours, years of work into something hoping for a better outcome, and not giving the person the opportunity to be better, giving them the opportunity to become stronger, wiser, and more capable. Instead, we destroy them and say, you shouldn't be allowed to do anything ever again because of the absolute devastation and chaos that you've caused. And I find that to be extraordinarily hateful and evil. But like I was mentioning, it's not the only thing. People are terrified of what a person is capable of if they're capable of doing one thing terribly or horrifically. So it just comes to show that We are extremely nuanced and complex creatures. I hate it when people all focus on these are appropriate categories and labels that we can associate all human beings and say, this is what you are. You are these labels, and we are going to compartmentalize you in all of these categories. And if you fall under a category of which I dislike, then you will be ostracized. Not just from your social circles, but from all of society. And that's just so simple-minded to me. And in no way can you convince me that that comes from a good place. Like, I recognize the intention as to where it comes from, but the action itself feels very evil. And the moment that we actually start breaking away from labels, breaking away from compartmentalizations of this is what a human being is and this is all they're capable of, when we actually break away from that and understand the real nuance, how a person ended up the way they did, their upbringing, their responses to these actions, what caused them, what their genetic predispositions are, and how society has formed them, what it is that they were told they can do, shouldn't do, will do, haven't done. All of these elements just coming together to create the person that you see today. Life is just an extremely complex and nuanced experience. And to put labels on it, to put labels on the human condition, not only doesn't make any sense to me, but I think is on a fundamental level inherently wrong. And that's why I don't associate with any particular community of people or group of people. I find the most happiness engaging with communities of people and groups of people and individuals and seeing the value that they have to provide and recognizing the faults within them and navigating through those communities as my own individual. But that's just one way to engage with life, where many people have their own ways of engaging with life, which are also completely just as valid. So it all just comes down to, what is it that you truly want for yourself? What is it that you truly want to experience from the world? What is it you want out of the world? What is it you need out of the world? And yourself, for that matter. And living life is an extraordinarily challenging process. And some people have great advantages over others, which can lead us to experiencing feelings of indignancy or acrimony towards those people, towards those better off people. Some people build their entire livelihoods from the ground up, and there's a tremendous level of respect in that. But again, you can feel that very same acrimony towards those people because you want to justify your feelings of inefficiency and unsuccessfulness, but we're all just doing our best. And if you're caught in a place of true despair and you're blaming everything else around you for your despair, you're never going to get out of that despair. Your life is forever going to be miserable because you ultimately, on at least a subconscious level, choose to be in despair because there's a comforting feeling to being in despair. And I definitely relate to that. If you guys were to ever actually visit my place, it is dark all the time. I hardly have lights on because I find a sense of real comfort being in the dark. To me, light represents movement, warmth, activity, and darkness represents stillness, calmness, tranquility. It doesn't represent evil, it represents that nothing state. And obviously it might sound a little bit odd for me because my reactions to music is very big. But if you guys were to engage with me in real life, I'm pretty awkward. I'm pretty quiet as well. And I really just like observing. Even though I like talking about ideas and discussing them and learning new things about how I can navigate the world around me and my own views for that matter, I really just like listening, hearing other people's experience of the world, hearing how they choose to engage with it and asking questions, prodding them about it, getting to know them more on a deeper level than just that superficial persona that they give off. And that could be very uncomfortable for people because they have to engage with levels that are deeper than the persona they choose to give to your average Joe in day-to-day society. And, you know, that's fine. A lot of people I've encountered with that I talk about these things with usually end the conversation immediately or become very offended when I prod more into their lives. And, you know, I completely understand that. But for me personally, I want to get to know people on a level that's more deep than that superficial persona. I find great value in people's experiences that aren't just, I went to the park and walked my dog today. You know, I want to get to know how you ended up as the person you are today, and taking the values you've learned and the lessons you've learned and internalizing them in a way that might make sense to me, and I can learn from your experiences. I can grow to become a wiser, stronger person because of not just my own experiences, and I have a vast array of experiences, but learning from other people, learning from how other people view the world. That's why I find it so critical to travel. It's just so imperative that we keep an open mind and an open heart when engaging with other people. We're not so quick to snap. We're not so quick to cancel. We're not so quick to judge others. And oftentimes, the most negative traits that we see in other people are most present in ourselves. And an example of that for me is hypocrisy. When I see people being heavily hypocritical, it agitates me to no end, more so than any other personality trait. But that's also because I find myself being hypocritical at times. And when I catch myself in those moments, I find myself to be very disappointed in myself, because I thought that I was better than that I was able to overcome this. But it's just one stepping stone. It's one obstacle that I'm able to overcome and become stronger in. And that's why it's so imperative to not snap at other people, but rather recognize what's very clear in others and internalize that in a way of, well, if I recognize this in someone else, it's very possible. In fact, it's very realistic that it is very present in me. And finding the areas of my life and being more sensitive to the areas in my life where I do extricate those character flaws, and just working on them, self-reflecting at the end of every day. Or if meditating is your thing, then doing that and understanding what it is that you can do to improve and grow as a person. I think the way that Ren handled this piece was exceptional. The way that he manipulated his voice, his actions, the setting, the lighting, it was just all immaculate to convey a very specific message that was so profound and beautiful, and I absolutely loved it. Great job, Ren. This song is being added to the playlist because it gives me a lot to think about. So much more so than everything that I've covered in this extraordinarily long video. So, amazing job, brother. That was beautiful. Thank y'all so much for watching this video. If y'all liked it, please like, comment, subscribe, and share. And if you didn't like it, please leave a dislike and let me know why in the comments below. I do read all of the comments, even if I may not heart or reply to all of them, so please know that your comments do not go unnoticed. My live streams are currently Thursdays at 1 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, so if you guys would like to stop by and say hey or ask any questions about myself or the channel, I'd be more than happy to be there for you guys. I am testing something new though, depending on how well the live streams go. If they're not as popular, then I might just have community posts where I ask what you guys would like to ask me and I just make Q&A videos about it. But that is yet to be determined. I want to take this time to appreciate all of you for being here and watching these videos. It truly does mean a lot to me, and I can't wait to see all of you in the next video. Have a great rest of your evening, everyone.